Welcome in, everybody, to Betting Pros. It's time to place your bets. It is me, Joey P, Joe Pisapia, and today we're going to take a look at UFC, a little how-to, because I know a lot of you out there want to get in some of the fight game, some of the fight action, so I brought in a heavy hitter guest here to take you through some of the best ways to bet MMA, and also take a little preview on UFC 290, which is going to be a really fun event that's coming down on Saturday, July 8th. And the card is filled with a lot of great competitors from around the world. And the big fight is Alexander Volkanovski against Rodríguez. They're going to square off against each other to unify the Featherweight title, which is very exciting. And the undercard is going to feature some really great international names, which makes sense because it's International Fight Week. And it's International Fun Week right here on Betting Pros because Mike Iurato is going to join us from MadLabMMA.com. You know him from Twitter at MadLabMMA. Mike, it is so great to have you on the show. I always think of you as kind of the quintessential analyst when it comes to converting the UFC knowledge into cash, whether it be betting, DFS, whatever it is. You've been that guy, and I listen to you because I don't know enough about this, and I want to help everybody out there get a little bit of a leg up too. So I appreciate you coming on today. How excited are you for this 290 event? Because you said this is going to be a big one.
Yeah, this is a great card. First of all, thank you for having me on, man. I really appreciate it. It's an honor to be on with you. Yeah, man, this is a great card. Usually international fight weeks are very, very good. Like they always try to, put their best leg up. But this one's really, really special. This is one for the sharps, for the casuals, for everybody. If you're going to watch a card, if you're going to buy a card, if you're going to be hanging out with your friends, this is a night to do it. This is a night, even if you want to be introduced to mixed martial arts in the UFC, this is a great, great card to do it with.
Yeah, it certainly seems like it too. And anytime you get a unification bout, that's always very exciting also. And of course, make sure if you are going to be betting on this, make sure you download the Betting Pros app and make sure that you have all that locked in. So that way, when any line movement happens, you can stay on top of all of that. Also, if you're watching on our YouTube channel, and I know that you are, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, click that little bell till it goes ding. And also, if you leave a comment below and you are a subscriber, we're giving away a free Betting Pros premium upgrade. So take a shot at getting something free, which is great. It'll help you make better bets. It'll give you all the tools that you need, or you could just go sign up today at bettingpros.com/upgrade. Now, Mike, in terms of the things you can bet on, I want to keep this simple for the audience too, and then we'll get a little bit more complex with the conversation. Odds to win, obviously, that is the easiest one. You see it out there. That was the first thing that usually grabs you when you're looking at the fights. Is that just your standard? Like, are you always working off that? Or are you somebody that digs in a little deeper? You go to round totals and the over-under on that? Are you somebody that goes to the victory props? And by victory props, just so people know out there, we're talking about, are you going to win by a knockout, a TKO, a DQ, win by submission, by decision? So there's lots of different ways. So for you, how do you approach these different options of betting when it comes to UFC and it comes to these fighters in particular?
Yeah, so, it really all depends on the line. Usually what I do first take is when I start breaking down these fights, I look at no Vegas lines. I try to really stay away from it. I use my own perspectives. I watch my own film. Then afterwards, I kind of set a line in my head. And if that line in my head is no ways near the line on Vegas, then I know, something's off here. And I start going into the props, especially if you get a guy. If you get a guy like a minus 1,100. For instance, there's somebody on this card, minus 1,400, I believe it is. Mm-hmm. And when I look at that, that's obviously you don't want to go near that. There's no value there unless you really believe the underdog is coming through. Then obviously the value's on that side. But if you know deep in your heart, if you know for a fact that minus 1,400, without a doubt, stone cold coming out, that's when you start diving into the finishing props. One rule I do have when lines are juiced that much is whoever's juiced to that much, you start looking at the finishing props where you can cut the line in half, cut the line in 3/4. So yeah, I go all over the board, but I take it on a fight perspective. Matchups matter, stylistic matchups, their durability, their conditioning. I take everything into consideration, and I try to find the best nugget of each fight. If I don't find one, then I pass on that fight.
I think you said the most important thing too, which is something that I think everyone who's good at this does, which is they do the research first, they create what the line is they think it is in their head, and then they go look. And that, Don't let Vegas dictate to you. That's how you find the value of what's going on. And as Mike was mentioning, sometimes you're going to see heavy favorites in some of the bouts that we're going to look at. But more importantly, too, these different styles really matter quite a bit, too, in UFC, too. And I think that typically speaking, when you get somebody, let's say, who's a great submission fighter, right? You have somebody who's really known for that. Are you more apt to go that route, or you stay away from it because sometimes the lines are not as good on things like that?
Yeah, it really depends. To me, that's one of the most important things, a stylistic matchup. But what a lot of people get a little swayed by is if you're talking about submission grappling, they look at the color of the belt way too much. The belt system has been flawed, for years now. It's much more of a business. All black belts aren't created equal. So if you see a guy that is a black belt Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu under, Marcelo Garcia, who's highly regarded, and then you got a black belt under somebody else, you're not kind of weighing that on the same level. This black belt under Marcelo Garcia can actually be, this black belt under the guy on the corner can be a white belt in a Marcelo Garcia. So I like to look at their competition. I like to look at how many submissions do they have. Are they a black belt but got submitted 8 times? Also, are they chinny if they're fighting a striker? Does the striker have very good takedown defense? There's so many things involved. It's almost like if you look at certain fighters like Arturo Gatti and Mickey Ward in boxing,
Right.
Those guys just matched up perfect for a war. No matter how many times they fought, there was just a perfect recipe for a war there. That's just a stylistic matchup that you'll never see them fight anyone else and have those kind of fights. So the stylistic matchup means everything. Their camps mean everything. Who they're training under means everything. Who they got, working on their holes. What have they been doing? Stylistic matchups, along with a couple other things, are the most important things to me. But it's really the level of the style that they're at for me.
How important is layoff too when you have certain fighters, especially some of the older fighters? Sometimes when, guys who are getting up there in age a little bit, or they're coming off injury, and they haven't fought a while. How do you approach those? Are you somebody who stays away from that sort of situation, or do you jump back in, whether it be positive or negative? I know it's very dependent on who the guy is. I get all that. But more often than not, sometimes you see where a guy has not been fighting as much to that ripe opportunity maybe for a big name to get upset.
Right. Yeah. So, it really depends. One thing, go back to stylistic matchup. It depends what kind of fighter you are. If you're a striker, if you're a boxer, timing is everything, right? You got to get your timing down. You got to, sometimes I believe in ring rust and cage rust. If you're someone that is a timing fighter, then yes, that I look into that and I say, listen, this is something we really don't know. Is his timing going to be there? Is it going to take him a round or two to get there? But if it's someone like the style of, say, of Colby Covington, where it's really just get you against a cage, take it down, there's really not much timing involved. You still got your wrestling chops. I don't look into it that much. Somebody, for example, like Robert Whitaker, he was going through a litany of injuries when he fought Israel Adesanya. Everyone kind of wrote him off against Jared Cannonier, and I knew why he took that time off. That time off was just injury after injury after injury, sickness. So sometimes the time off is good. Sometimes the time off is bad, but it also really depends on, are you a fighter that relies on timing or a fighter that doesn't? So it really depends. But yeah, I do look at layoffs in a positive or negative manner. It depends.
Now, look, I know you've been watching this for decades now. I mean, I go back to the days of the early UFC too. Like I remember the Gracie years. I remember the Oleg Taktarov. It's like I go back a ways, baby. Like I was big into it when I was younger. But here's my question for you. What we've seen in the last, let's say 5 years, are there trends in terms of, it's become a striker's game or it's become a submission person's game? What do you look for when you look for some of these younger fighters who are coming through where you think, these guys have a chance to really rise to the top? Because I know, like every other sport, there's trends of success and you can always kind of pinpoint them. What in UFC, in your opinion, has been one of those?
I mean, you can never go wrong with a real high pedigree wrestler. You know what I mean? Like that's right. Somebody who they have that in their back pocket, and no matter what happens, they can kind of just say, you know what, my safety blanket, I can get you to the ground. I can lay on top of you. You get the control time, and then judges tend to look at if you're on top, if you finish the round on top, they can tend to go that way. However, I would say if you look at the history right now, the landscape of all the champions of the division, they're predominantly strikers. And you look at guys like Max Holloway, you look at even guys like Volkanovski, who started off like a real grindy wrestler. He wins a lot of his fights on the feet. You know what I mean? So to me, the hardest thing to learn is the art of striking. And I'm a little biased because I come from a boxing background, but there's so many nuances involved when it comes to striking that if you have the striking down pat and you have some maybe God-given power and stuff like that, but you know how to create angles, you know how to create space, you know how to manage distance. A lot of the champions are strikers. You learn your takedown defense. You do the bare bones, not the bare bones, but you well-round yourself enough to stay safe, get out of bad positions, get back on the feet and make it work. Fights start on the feet for 3 rounds or 5 rounds. They all start on the feet. So I think you got to be well-rounded, but if I had my choice, I would much rather be a much more well-rounded striker than anything else.
All right. Let's take a look at UFC 290, which is coming up pretty soon, July 8th. So it's right around the corner here. And obviously, Alexander Volkanovski is the favorite here. It's a heavy one at minus 450. Yair Rodríguez, who is a quick guy in terms of, I mean, if you watch him, and I was watching some tape on him before the show today, certainly quick, explosive. He is at plus 340. Now, obviously, we got a heavy favorite here. Is there any potential for an upset? Because right now the Vegas line is telling you no. And I see from your body language, it feels like it's a probable no as well.
Well, it's fighting, right? Like anything can happen.
Sure.
Fighting, you know what I mean? How many times have we seen it? But in a situation like this, you got to look at who Volkanovski is, man. And this is a guy with a thick resume. Yeah. This is a guy who, like I said, he's so well rounded. He's got such good work ethic, and a lot of people look at him and you look at this. For instance, a lot of people are going to look at the height and the size here. You got Yair at 5'11", you have Volkanovski at 5'6". However, he's got freakishly long arms. There's no reach advantage in this fight. Both of their reaches are exactly the same. That's something that a lot of people don't look at when they look at Volkanovski. But this guy just fought a resume and a litany of great fighters in a fight against Makhachev, who a lot of people thought he possibly could have won. You know what I mean? Then you get a guy like Yair. He came in. He was supposed to be like that Matrix 2.0 guy. He's very flashy. He had that like up elbow knockout. So
yeah, I saw that one.
He can make things happen. The kid can make things happen, but you make things like that happen against guys who haven't seen you before, guys who haven't seen that style before. He trains with the best of the best. So I do think I never go near lines like minus 450, minus 500 because it's just too volatile. But they're correct for having this line juiced to a point. But this is a situation in a 5-round fight where this is where you start looking at props.
Okay, so when you look at the props for this one, are you looking for a knockout by Volkanovski?
I'll start in the inside the distance to see where that is. That kind of covers all bases. You know what I mean? And then I'll start looking for a knockout. There's also whoever's got certain apps out there. It depends what state you're in, but they got some great props out there. They got some great double chance props, that you could look at, knockout or decision. That kind of covers your tracks. Two start rounds are another great way to go. To start round 2, to start round 3, to start round 4. You look at those props. Like there's so many detailed props you could find, but as soon as you see a line juice this much, especially in a 5-round fight when Volkanovski is going to come in here to try to prove a point, this is when you start really detailing the props.
Yeah, and look, if you're going to stay up with all those props, again, BettingPros is the place to be because we got the prop bet cheat sheet there. We got the UFC stuff going on. So if you download the app, which is free, and if you sign up and you're premium especially, you get all the extra tools. But you can monitor all this line moving. You can look at all the props. You can go there and even follow some of the people who are the best at betting UFC, which is also great too. You follow those people, and you could be in on what they're in on, which is really helpful. So again, BettingPros trying to help you bet a little smarter, not harder. And of course, if you want to, also, we've got some free money to give away. BetMGM is offering $1,000 to new users with their first free bet. If you sign up today at BetMGM and use that promo code JUICE, you get paid back up to $1,000 in free bonuses, even if you don't win. So use that promo code JUICE, sign up for BetMGM, and connect it over to your BettingPros account. That way you get the best of everything. Let's go to the next bout here. We just talked about the featherweight title bout. Let's talk about the flyweight title bout. We got Brandon Moreno against Alexandra Pontaja. Now, in this fight, you've got a little bit closer odds. Pontaja is at plus 145. You've got minus 170 on Moreno. He is the champ. Do you see the champ defending in this match? And do you see a way that you might want to bet this one?
This one, believe it or not, I like the Pantoja side. I like the dog on this side. And, and one reason is certain things in numbers. I'm not a big numbers guy, you know what I mean? But there are certain things in number that do have been historically proven to be a fact. And these guys fought once before. Okay, and Pantoja won that fight. Now, stats will tell you in the rematch in the UFC and MMA, between 68 to 70%, the fighter that won the first time does usually win the rematch. So that's one thing. Another thing is Pantoja is I call him the Roberto Duran of MMA. That's really, that's his style, bro. This guy has like, not that Roberto Duran was underappreciated, but Pantoja is so underappreciated. This guy is just a guy who really doesn't talk all that much. He's not big on the microphone. He's not big on the camera, but this guy wins. He's got a phenomenal grappling game. He's got a relentless striking game. He's durable. He's got good cardio. And when you look at Brandon Moreno, this is a guy who I really like too. This guy's got unbelievable striking, good grappling. But if you're looking at a side to this fight, you're looking at Moreno at minus 175. I just don't see the value on that there. I understand he is the champion. He's fought a very high level of competition, but Pantoja is a guy who's been silently sleeping under a blanket and nobody pays attention to him, So, and it's kind of crazy to me because I've been saying this, me and my partner's been saying this for the year. We can't wait for Pantoja to finally get a shot. He's one of those guys that has deserved it and never got it. Now he's going to get it. So I see value on Pantoja at plus 145. And this is a line where you might want to wait a little bit, because I think that a lot of the people
Really?
Yeah, because a lot of the people might see value on the Moreno side because they know Moreno a lot more than they know Pantoja. I mean, I wouldn't let it move too much. You know what I mean? At plus 145, if it goes down to plus 140, I would stab it. But I see a situation where it either holds or it does move in the opposite direction a little bit.
Very good. So there's some value there on Pantoja. What about in the middleweight bout, too? We've got Duplessis against Whitaker. Whitaker is ranked number 2. We got number 5 on Duplessis. Obviously, Duplessis is at plus 295. Whitaker minus 360. Not a whole lot of value there. Again, another heavy favorite. But when we're trying to dig in a little deeper, do you see another way potentially where you want to might bet this one, whether it be in the prop side or in the outcome situation?
Yeah, this is an interesting fight because I don't think Duplessis is good at all. I really, really don't. I think he's an overhyped fighter. I do respect anybody who steps into the octagon, but this is a perfect situation that I tell all my subscribers, how quickly you forget. And some of these fighters have little blips in the radar and stuff. One fight they lose, and all of a sudden, almost like, the David Onama fight last week, for instance. I don't know if you saw that fight. Mm-hmm. There was nobody on David Onama because he lost one fight, and it was a war. It was a split decision that he lost. Nobody was on him. I picked him inside the distance. He ended up winning inside the distance. Once a fighter loses, he's losing it. He's getting chinny. He's not durable anymore. That's what happened with Whitaker when he ended up fighting Izzy. When he had the injuries, he got knocked out. He came back. Nobody picked him against Cannonier. Whitaker has fought everybody. He has seen everybody. He has been through it. He has beaten everybody. He's been the champion. I think this line is actually correct, minus 375 against Duplessis. I actually do think it's correct. However, I'm not going to sit here and tell you to time it to parlays and stuff like that.
Well, would you tie to a first round? Would you try to get him? Is that the way to target it? Do you think Duplessis?
No, I would not do a first round. No, I would not do a first round because Whitaker's a timing guy. Whitaker's a guy that's kind of in and out. He's on his feet. He tries to find his range. Sometimes he does wait a little bit too long. But Duplessis is a durable guy in the beginning, and you got to be careful. You have to be. He'll keep you honest with his power. So Whitaker's got to kind of touch him and feel him out a little bit. But this is a fight that you could look at in, props that you could find. For instance, they'd have those new props like, what is it, the minus 3.5, plus 3. You see those new props?
Oh, they're always creating new ways for us to go out there.
They're doing lines now. So basically what they do is, they're doing the lines now. So those of you who don't know, you can get a fighter at minus 3.5 or plus 3.5. And if it does go to the judging scorecards, you either got to avoid a 30-27 or you need a 30-27, which is a good way to look. But I just think Whitaker's got him covered everywhere. There's probably going to be a couple props, maybe double chance props I think you could take here. But in a 3-round fight, Duplessis is durable. It might go to the cards. But I do like the Whitaker side here, like all day.
All right, there's 2 more fights on here. We got the lightweight bout with Jalen Turner ranked 10th. He is minus 200 against Dan Hooker plus 180 from New Zealand. And then you got the middleweight bout with Tresson Gore, the heavy underdog plus 800 against Bo Nakal. Do you see any value here or anything interesting with these 2 remaining fights here with Turner and Hooker and Gore and Nakal that you think has your betting attention?
Yeah, this one scares me a little bit because this is a fight. When I go through people's resumes, I tend to only go back 3 fights. That's it.
Really?
Maybe the max 5 because
why is that, Mike?
You got wear and tear on the body. You have momentum's a big thing, and they learn. Like these guys learn every single camp. So if you're going back 10 fights, like Conor McGregor fought Dustin Poirier years ago,
right?
Okay, but then they come back when he's a completely new guy, and it's a completely different ball game. So I tend to stay within the 3 to 5 fight range. I don't go past that. Because there's a lot of things that come into play. When you look at Dan Hooker, this is a guy who came out of the gates like a bat out of hell. Good striking, durable, and then he started getting knocked out. He started getting finished. He started becoming like this guy that's been he needed wars. He got into all these wars. So I do like him. But when you go back on his last 3 fights, he was, knocked out by Allen. He was, subbed by Islam. He beat Nasrat. He was KO'd by Chandler. So he's got a window of like just wars that he's been through it. This kid's been through it. I think he's very talented, but I don't think he's that durable. When you look at a guy like Turner now, who's younger, he's rangy, he's got good striking. He's kind of the carbon copy of Hooker, just a lot more fresher. I do like this to the Turner side, but yeah, the minus 225 does scare me a little bit. It's nothing I probably would have that much confidence in stabbing.
Or would you have any confidence in that match specifically because you are so confident in Turner? Again, whether it be way of victory, whether it be rounds, whether it be go to the cards.
Yeah, I think a good bet on this, if you can get a good line on it, would be Turner. Like a double chance, or inside the distance, or you could look for a knockout or decision, because sometimes Hooker comes and he finds his chin, and sometimes he leaves it at home. But yeah, there's definitely an opportunity for inside the distance in this fight for either side. But I just don't. I don't think there's enough. Plus 175, there's not enough value on Hooker for me.
Yeah, fair enough. All right. And as far as the middleweight bout with Gore and Nakala, any thoughts on that?
Nah, this fight is honestly, this is just a redo. Trees and Gore came out and, he complained about the illegal strike, the snap of a bus. So the UFC is going to give him his wish, let him come in, let him do his thing. But this is a fight minus 1,400. You could probably almost guarantee it's not going to the card. So if you could find the right angle on that and you get a good line on that, that's something you want to attack. But minus 1,400, any which way, you don't even go near it.
All right. So go watch the action on July 8th on Saturday. And please go follow Mike Iurato over on the Twitter machine at MadLab MMA and check out all his amazing work, him and his partners over there at madlabmma.com. They do tremendous work. I don't think there's anybody out there, Mike, and I've said this to you before in private, so I can say it on the show because I'm telling the truth, that knows so much about the game of fighting and how to turn it into money. So I am really glad that you could spend some time with our audience today. And again, make sure you're downloading the BettingPros app. Make sure you subscribe to BettingPros wherever you get your pods, and follow us over here on Twitter, and follow us also on YouTube. Make sure you click that bell for notifications and subscribe, and use that sign up at BetMGM juice to get $1,000 back when you sign up. So that's a good situation for you, and we'll see you again soon. That'll do it for us. But the story of the game goes on. For Mike Iurato, I'm Joey P. We'll see you next time, kids.
Thanks a lot, man.